What is up, everybody? This is Lyle with No Hippie Trucking and Transportation. And in almost every video where I talk about lease, I'm always talking about having a safety net, having some money stacked aside and all those different kind of things. And I just think that that is my responsibility. If I'm going to be putting it out there, is a good option that I at least mention what would make me feel good in a lease. Now, that being said, I do think that there is something to be said about a calculated risk. I personally believe that leasing is a good calculated risk where you could actually get into a lease without having much money, but kind of build that up as you go. Now, one of the reasons I'm so cautious is something that happened to me. So I'm going to get into a story that actually pretty much broke me, okay? And what it did was it helped me refocus my entire life. So back in 2007-ish, somewhere in there, I don't remember the exact dates, but I'd been a mortgage banker. I started in like 99. I'd been a manager. I'd managed an office in Denver, one in Phoenix. I was going back and forth between those offices. Prior to that, I was like this, I'm not going to call myself no hotshot mortgage banker, but I was doing pretty well at it. And around 2007-ish, I was like, you know what? I think I need to go out on my own. Make that real money, start making that, $100,000 a month type situation. Not, maybe not 100, but close to that by my calculations. So I was like, okay, let me jump in the market. So I had some money, but not a whole lot of money. At the time, I wasn't quite as frugal as I was. I think I might have been losing money on my rental properties at that point, maybe close to around $300 or $400 a month, which isn't bad a lot of times when you're holding on to properties and stuff. That's a totally different thing. Anyway, so if you think about the mortgage business like trucking, and I'm going to kind of try to explain what my plan was how Prime has, Prime, but then they have other companies that kind of lease onto them, whether it be Wilson, RST, BLC. Anyway, I was going to do that same situation in the mortgage business. I was going to basically run under companies, basically, let's call it their authority. I was going to run under them. I was going to use all them for infrastructure, all that kind of stuff. So, which was pretty important back in that time, because that was just when a bunch of regulation came in and things like that. Had the regulation not came in, I probably would have gone out completely on my own, but the same thing would have happened. So anyway, I get in. You have to spend a bunch of money, printers. At the time, marketing was pretty expensive. Whether it was going out talking to realtors, every time you do that, you got to figure that's going to cost you, a good $35, $50, maybe not that much if you're going and meeting in an office. Anyway, let's not even talk about all the mechanics behind it, but, I had to be thinking about mail. So you're going to be looking at spending, mail for marketing. You're going to be looking at spending. At the time, I think stamps were, forget how much stamps were. I was probably sending out 100 letters a day. I was probably meeting 4 or 5 realtors a day or insurance people, just whatever it take to drive business. And then I was spending money on mortgage leads. Anyway, that's just a lot of the money that was getting spent. And then you obviously had paper, just normal stuff to run the office. So it was taking thousands of dollars to get into this. As soon as I started getting up and running and starting to make that money back again, or turning a profit, the market went down. Now, the market actually went down before you heard about it on the news. If you weren't in the mortgage industry, it probably took about a good month and a half before it actually came to, before it came to the surface. So what started happening was, you'd have all these deals and stuff like that were in the pipeline, and all of a sudden banks were going out of business. You'd have a loan that was approved in the system, about to fund, but the bank went out of business before the loan could get funded. Well, now you got to find another bank, but now because of the market, interest rates have gone up on that particular loan program. So either you can't do, well, in a lot of cases you couldn't do the loan, and then there were certain things where the loan might have been approved, but now they're starting to tighten up their standards. So it was just a total mess. So I'm thinking it was, I'm thinking it might have been a September of whatever year that was. I probably lost out on over $40,000 of commission that would have came from those loans. I think it was about 7 or 8 loans. Closer to 30,000 on about 8 loans that I couldn't fund for whatever reason or another. So anyway, because I wasn't positioned right in the market, didn't have enough money set aside to weather the storm, what ended up happening was I just ended up basically shutting it down and then just going back to work as an individual loan officer, things like that. Now, that in itself didn't cost a lot of money, because all you have to do is just say you're out of business. And, it wasn't like I was paying anything to keep the lights open or anything like that. I just had to take the loss, and the loss was basically the money that I invested into it. And then the lack of income that I was making from those loans. And, I'd probably gone about 2 or 3 months without income after that before I was able to kind of ramp it up. Anyway, so that's why I'm really conservative about money. And when I'm telling people about this business in general, whether it's, people are going to say I can't talk about being an owner-operator without being an owner-operator. And I do agree with that to some extent. So let's talk about stuff that I do know about, which is this lease. Calculating your risk, I do think the average person is going to be able to come in here without a great bankroll and still be able to be profitable. But you have to go into this smart. You can't bring no bankroll and all your bad habits into leasing and making it. Well, you can make it work with that, but it has to go perfect. There are a lot of people that went through what I went through this last month, where you have those 2 little setbacks happen, you start getting in the negative, and it could be a wrap. You know what I'm saying? Prime is going to allow you to stay in the hole forever long, and you should be able to pull yourself out of that. But I just like to be extremely cautious. If you happen to be on the fence between leasing and going company, I'd say if you're on the fence, company might be the way to go. But if you really think that the lease is the way that you want to go, do not let me, well, hopefully nothing I've said about having X amount of dollars or having, a bunch of money set aside, hopefully that does not deter you, because that's going into without it is just a calculated risk. You could come out of it fine. Just about everybody at Prime has gone into leasing without that nest egg and have made it work. I'm just saying, based on my own experience, if I didn't have it, things would have been a little bit different for me. So just, it's a great risk to calculate. You're really not fronting your own money. You're not doing anything like that. You have Prime that's going to be there to kind of hold your hand through everything. You're not going to be stroking checks for whatever. So, when the pigtail got pulled out of my truck and broke that socket, I had the money. But if I didn't have, and basically it just got charged to the truck, and then they got taken out of my settlement. Even though I had the money, it's nice to know whatever happens, boom, I don't need to worry about stroking out a check right then or whatever. They're going to handle it, bill the truck, and then if you're in the negative, or, you take that little bit of a hit on your next paycheck, it's a great way. It's a great safety net. So I just wanted to put this out there to people that are thinking about leasing, because I think that my message about having that strong bankroll might have been a little bit too strong, and I don't want to dissuade people to put themselves in a great position, which I think, whether it's company or lease, but I happen to be lease, I don't want to dissuade people from making that decision just because I'm a little bit more conservative when it comes to that. And I think with age comes conservatism to some degree. So, except in some areas, but for me anyway. Anyway, that's all I had to say in this video. I want to thank everybody for stopping by No Hippie Trucking and Transportation. I do appreciate it. Comment, subscribe, and I'm out.